From the gleefully violent to the surprisingly family-friendly, Harley Quinn is one of the most enduring and adaptable characters to ever emerge from Gotham City, and we're ranking all of her on-screen versions from worst to best. Surprisingly enough, the 1960s Batman show starring Adam West never actually featured an appearance by Two-Face. It took decades for fans to see what his inclusion might have looked like with the 2017 animated film Batman vs. Two-Face, which was the final Batman project West ever worked on. It's pure campy fun, as Hugo Strange develops a machine that can suck the evil out of anyone. The only problem is that it explodes, partially covering Harvey Dent in liquefied evil and turning him into Two-Face.
Harvey, look out!
Harleen Quinzel, voiced by Serena Irwin, is Hugo's assistant, and that's pretty much the extent of her role, save for an exclusive scene on the Blu-ray release. That extra scene involves Harleen breaking Joker out of a cell and adopting the new name of Harley Quinn. There's really nothing here to make the character stand out, even if it's cool to see what Harley's design might have been like had she existed in the 60s. Long before the Birds of Prey were best known for being led by the fantabulously emancipated Harley Quinn, they were tearing up TV screens in the early 2000s, though not for very long. Only one season was ever produced of the WB's Birds of Prey after its impressive premiere numbers gave way to a steep decline in viewership. It's an odd little series that's notably averse to comic book canon. It features Oracle working out of Gotham's clock tower, but it also has a telepathic Black Canary, a Gotham that's been abandoned by Batman, and a Huntress who was born to a Catwoman with literal cat powers that she can also manifest. Nothing, however, tops the take on Harley Quinn for sheer strangeness. As the show's antagonist, Harley is a conniving psychiatrist out for revenge on the Gotham elite who incarcerated her Mr. J. It's not a terrible idea on its own, but Mia Sara's Harley shares little in common with the Mistress of Mayhem that fans know and love. She smirks instead of cackling, coolly lays out her complex plans, and generally lacks the anarchic glee that makes Harley such a beloved character. There's a saying that there are no small parts, only small actors. With just over a minute of screen time, Harley isn't a major force in the 2019 animated movie Batman Hush, but she does get a standout moment. She's really only there to disrupt an opera and try to kill Bruce Wayne on the orders of Hush, who's kidnapped Joker. Hynden Walsh makes the most of her brief appearance as Harley, but there's so much story to tell that things quickly need to move along.
Wah, wah, wah. Crying clowns. Who needs them, am I right?
The Hush comic arc really exists as a rundown of the entire Batman mythos, and Harley is integral to that mythos. So it makes sense she'd factor into the story on screen, no matter how briefly. But when ranking all of the various screen versions of Harley, there's not much to distinguish her from others that get much more to do. One of the best things about superhero stories is their flexibility. But while that openness to alternate universes often leads to truly inventive storytelling, it also creates some real stinkers. Case in point, 2015's Justice League: Gods and Monsters, in which DC's premier good guys are reimagined as brutal, world-conquering colossuses with little interest in accountability. This world's Harley Quinn is similarly dark. Clad in ripped lingerie, she takes apart corpses to construct the perfect family scene. She's taken down by a vampiric Batman, but not before she hits every tired item on the checklist of twisted 2010s superhero media. Chainsaws? Check. Reflection in a shattered mirror? Check. Girlish affectations contrasted by bloody violence? Check. It's brutal, bloody, and all the more boring for it.
All right already. I know when I'm licked.
The 2019 animated film Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles deserves credit for being one of the best TMNT crossovers ever. It's a pretty fun team-up, with Shredder causing problems in Gotham and putting the iconic heroes on a collision course with each other. Arguably, the most fun set piece occurs in Arkham Asylum, where Batman's rogues gallery have all been mutated into various animals. Mr. Freeze is a polar bear with an ice gun, while Two-Face sports two separate cat heads. And Harley Quinn is, naturally enough, a hyena. Tara Strong has proven repeatedly that she can do great voice work with this character, but in this case, Harley gets overshadowed by everything else going on. And let's face it, Harley being turned into a hyena is a tad predictable. It's neat to see her like this, but when there's a bear with a gun in the room, Harley can't help but feel safe. 2018's Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay isn't bad exactly, nor is its portrayal of Harley Quinn. Generally speaking, both are exactly what you might expect: violent, quirky, and uninterested in ethics. Committed DC fans will have fun seeing various lesser-known characters brought to animated life, while more casual watchers can enjoy some decently choreographed fight scenes. But really, that's where the praise has to end, especially when it comes to Harley. She's what you might get if you asked a computer to generate a version based upon the Harley Quinn merchandise available at any given geek convention. Again, it's not terrible, but it's nowhere near scintillating. This is the exact average of the Harley that lives in the public imagination, a perfectly adequate portrayal that meets the minimum and goes no further.
Hey, we got cheese dogs and chicken nuggets.
Blow me up now.
Set in the universe of the Batman Arkham video games, 2014's Assault on Arkham throws pretty much everything it can into a dark, twisty mix. Harley is accordingly a patchwork of her most attention-grabbing traits, all of which have been emphasized to the point of absurdity. This isn't a bad thing exactly. Any decent portrayal of Harley Quinn needs to involve at least a little absurdity. But this is more than a little absurdity, as she bites the ears off her therapists and seduces Deadshot by waiting naked in his bed. And it actually sort of works. Hynden Walsh's performance is wonderfully nuanced, which goes a long way in sanding down the script's rough patches. Yet this Harley is so clearly calculated to appeal to the most id-driven adolescent fans that she never stops being faintly off-putting and exhausting. There's fun to be found here, but you have to make your way through a bloody, sticky gauntlet to get to it. 2021's Injustice features a fairly divisive plot that sees Superman manipulated by Joker into killing a pregnant Lois Lane. Superman then kills Joker in turn and pursues a darker path of justice where no bad guys can be tolerated. It falls in the tradition of modern superhero projects that pose the question, what if Superman turned evil? That's either an intriguing concept or a needless interpretation of a character who's supposed to represent all that's right. Either way, Superman isn't the only one in the film who displays both light and dark sides. Harley, here voiced by Gillian Jacobs, works with Joker at first and helps kill Jimmy Olsen. After being apprehended, she's protected by Green Arrow to spare her from Superman's vengeance, and she then decides to work with the good guys. Jacobs does a great job, essentially turning Harley into a bratty child that Green Arrow has to babysit. She provides much of the levity in an otherwise dark story, but she also has moments of genuine emotion. Ultimately, Injustice offers a neat showcase of how Harley is influenced by those around her, and with Joker out of the picture, she does see value in doing good.
I'm a hero now! Hero Harley!
The Harley Quinn of the Gotham TV series isn't technically Harley. Instead, she's Echo, the right-hand woman to Joker stand-in Jeremiah Valeska. Like her inspiration, Echo also began as a professional woman who eventually plummeted into gleeful insanity and deranged devotion. And like everything else in Gotham, she's the classic character seen through a new prism, at once clearly identifiable but also entirely new. What results is strange but largely satisfying. Harley has always been a tragic figure, as well known for her pitiful dependence upon the Joker as for her cheeky one-liners. But Echo's story is sharper in its sadness, accelerating Harley's dedication into literal worship. She shoots herself in the head to prove herself to Jeremiah, leads cults centered around him, and helps him fake being brain-dead. It's an odd take best left outside mainstream DC storytelling, but it's intriguing enough to indulge within the refracted world of Gotham.
There'll never be one like you.
Really?
Megan Strange took on the role of Harley for the Emperor Joker episode of the animated series Batman the Brave and the Bold. Instead of the usual jester getup, she's dressed like a flapper, with the rest of Joker's henchmen also wearing black and white. It sets up the final action set piece wherein everyone loses their voice, and all of the dialogue comes via cue cards. This leads to some fun fourth wall breaks where Harley and Batmite use those cards to beat up Joker's goons. Flapper Harley is pretty fun, while also demonstrating some real pathos as she realizes that Joker will never be as obsessed with her as he is with Batman. With reality getting thrown out the window, Joker is able to kill Batman over and over again, leaving her out to dry. It's a surprisingly nuanced portrayal of the character where she still gets ample one-liners. Harley would appear in this continuity again in the animated films Scooby-Doo and Batman the Brave and the Bold, but with Tara Strong taking over the voice. With either actor though, this is a pretty fun take on Harley. 2020's Justice League Dark Apokolips War is the final film set within the DC animated movie universe, and it doesn't pull any punches. It might even be difficult for some fans to watch, as many classic DC heroes and villains get killed almost immediately by Darkseid's forces. But for those willing to take the plunge, it's pretty rewarding. Only a small ragtag group remains to try to defeat Darkseid, and that leads them to team up with the new leader of the Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn. Harley's presence and sense of humor are desperately needed in Apokolips War. After all, there's an entire sequence where the likes of Green Lantern and the Flash get torn apart, while Superman is depowered and tortured via liquid kryptonite. It's not the sort of thing you turn on to feel good, but once Harley comes into the picture, neither is it all doom and gloom. The giddy way in which he talks about taking charge of the Suicide Squad because Amanda Waller died of cancer is the peak of dark humor. It also makes it clear how Harley would be uniquely equipped to handle the end days without skipping a beat.
Easy peasy, rich and cheesy.
This is honestly Hynden Walsh's best Harley Quinn performance in the DC animated movie universe, as she really gets a chance to explore new avenues of the character. It may be the end of the world as we know it, but Harley's feeling fine. The animated series Batman Beyond chronicles cantankerous septuagenarian Bruce Wayne's attempts to pass on his crime-fighting expertise to the teenage Terry McGinnis. For the most part, the old Batman villains are either entirely gone or represented through the effect they had upon Gotham's underworld. For example, the Dee-Dees are twin girls in Raggedy Ann wigs and go-go boots who have a connection to the clown Prince of Crime. The character who reveals this is their Nana Harley, who bails the girls out of jail at the end of the Return of the Joker movie.
You rotten little scamps!
The implications are tantalizing. Is their grandfather the Joker? Did the Dee-Dees turn to crime to emulate or scorn Harley? How did she escape the supervillain life, or is she actually still part of it? Return of the Joker's plot rests upon a scheme decades in the making, in which Harley very nearly got the chance to play mother alongside Joker's father to a brainwashed Tim Drake. How might the foiling of that domestic bliss have led to the stout cardigan-wearing grandma we glimpse at the end of the movie? These are questions with no answers, but the fact that Nana Harley inspires them is enough to make her appearance quite memorable. It's hard to categorize the LEGO Movie's take on DC Comics according to any typical standard. Sure, major characters like Batman and other Justice Leaguers are there, wearing their usual costumes and wielding their usual powers. But this Batman blasts his own dubstep tracks, while Superman boasts about the Phantom Zone having the sickest baddies. If these portrayals are comparable to anything, it's the 1960s Batman TV show. They're entertaining precisely because they're such dramatic departures from the norm. Harley Quinn is voiced by Jenny Slate in this land of plasticized adventure, and the PG rating certainly allows the character to return to her goofier roots. She poses as an employee of Phantom's own laundry service, roller skates her way through the Joker's lair, and cycles through a series of comic accents. She's genuinely funny, an aspect of the character often buried beneath violence and sex appeal. She also actually gets to play psychologist to a bummed-out Joker, making for a more serious incorporation of Harley's professional past than most versions allow. This Harley might be made of plastic, but she's all heart. The Batman, which aired on Kids WB and the Cartoon Network from 2004 to 2008, was a sleek and often controversial take on the superhero. Fans remain split to this day over the unruly mane of hair sported by the Joker, to say nothing of his shoelessness. Harley was no exception to the unique style, as she hosts a call-in advice show called Heart to Heart with Harley. She's more of a diva than a doctor. When she's axed by her network for ambushing Bruce Wayne with a date he ditched, she takes to the Joker's side immediately. This version of Harley definitely isn't for everyone, most especially those who find her fall from grace all the more affecting for its unlikeliness. But The Batman isn't Batman the Animated Series, and this change to Harley suits the show's slicker, slightly cynical style.
Call me Harley Quinn!
The 2018 animated movie Batman Ninja transports a bunch of DC characters to feudal Japan, and Harley Quinn arguably fares the best out of anyone. The ruffles on her suit fit into the jester vibe perfectly, and her purple hair ties her into the Joker's overall color scheme pretty well. The personality is on point too, with Rie Kugimiya serving as the Japanese voice actor and Tara Strong taking over for the English dub. What's interesting about this take is how much Harley really feels like a trickster. She's a master of disguise, wearing a Joker getup at one point and also dressing up as an unassuming old woman. Ultimately, this Harley is just plain fun, and it feels so right.
Hi, pretty kitty!
2017's Batman and Harley Quinn is a throwback to Batman the Animated Series on multiple levels. Its visuals are a wholehearted return to 1992, embracing Bruce Timm's legendary designs over the blockier look of its contemporaries. Moreover, Tim co-wrote the story, and animated series veterans Kevin Conroy and Lauren Lester returned to voice Batman and Nightwing respectively. Harley is no exception to this trend, as she's clad in her original costume and lacks the bloodlust that so many future adaptations instilled in her.
I don't make deals with psychopaths.
Sociopath! So-she-o-path!
Alas, the movie itself is middling and prone to the same excesses as other DC animated original features. Case in point, in an ill-advised attempt to create a sexy shot, animators accidentally portrayed Harley with 2 pairs of buttocks. But beneath that misstep, there lies a Harley who is in fact quite a lot of fun. She knows how to tell a joke, sings karaoke, and sometimes wants to do the right thing, even if it's through the wrong means. Ranking Lady Gaga's Lee Quinzel amongst all the other Harley Quinns is tough. Objectively, she gives a great performance in Joker Folie Deux. She goes toe-to-toe with Joaquin Phoenix's Oscar-winning take on Arthur Fleck, aka Joker, and she definitely has the pipes to deliver on the movie's musical sequences. It's just that she doesn't have much to do in this take on the character, which feels scared to dive too deeply into Harley's psyche beyond being obsessed with Joker. She falls in love with the idea of Joker, supporting him throughout his trial, and Joker, in turn, begins to see a life with her. Aside from her colorful outfits, she sort of just blends in with the rest of Joker's supporters in and outside the courtroom, who see him as a folk hero of sorts standing up to the corrupt elite. Ultimately, and to no surprise, this is a Joker story, so Harley winds up feeling underdeveloped. If the standalone Joker movies lent themselves more to spin-offs, one could argue they were merely setting up more to come with her. As it stands, it's likely a one-and-done affair. Director Todd Phillips even spoke to Variety about creating this grounded Harley before the film's release, saying, "The high voice, that accent, the gum chewing, and all that sort of sassy stuff that's in the comics, we stripped that away. The approach works for this type of film, but ultimately, it's a Harley that's not much of a Harley." Every generation gets its own Justice League cartoon, and Justice League action is a bright-eyed vision in which the fights are fierce and the jokes are plentiful. It's a whole lot of fun, and Harley Quinn comes right along for the boisterous ride. This is Harley at her most Harley. For example, take her voice. Tara Strong has played her before, but this time, she cranks her performance up to a bizarre baby doll pitch that works like gangbusters.
You don't look so good, Swampy. How about a pick-me-up?